Hey, this is Doc Yates. I'm a naturopathic doctor, registered acupuncturist, and a kinesiologist, owner of the Yates Naturopathic Clinic, and the founder of the interactive health website, Able Health. And this is the Simply Health Podcast, a show for females where I work to simplify and demystify the secrets of achieving optimal health naturally, based on my own experience in working with thousands of female patients over the past 15 years of my clinical practice. Welcome to Simply Health. Hey, this is Doc Yates, and welcome to the Simply Health Podcast. And just to let you know, we are going through a rebranding. We are going to be known just to better serve our audience of perimenopause and menopause. The podcast is now going to be called, going forward, Perimeno Bliss. So Perimeno Bliss, it's sponsored, of course, still by Able Health and Definitive Formulas. And we're really excited because I feel that it's just such a better name that fits for, who we're trying to serve, which is our perimenopausal and menopausal clients. So I hope you guys enjoy the change. We're going to be putting out the new logo soon, so be sure to check that out. Welcome to Perimeno Bliss. So today I want to talk about your life. And what I want to talk about with your life is how you can make some changes to focus on quality, not quantity. And generally what that means from the health standpoint, when everyone's thinking about quantity, they're like, oh, I want to do this to live longer. I want to do this for life extension. Oh, my doctor said this is going to be important for living longer. Quality is everything. And when you focus on quality, you will generally get quantity with it, but you have to focus on quality. There's another podcast that I follow called the BS Medicine Podcast, the Best Science Medicine Podcast. Is hosted by a doctor and a pharmacist. And it's really interesting because despite the fact they're a doctor and a pharmacist, the vast majority of the podcast is just talking about how poorly most medications work when they're actually studied. And for instance, one of the absolute best medicines that they have in the medical field that they feel to improve the quantity of life, so live longer, prevent heart attacks, are statins. And statins are medications that reduce cholesterol. But here's what that actually entails. If you're trying to use statins for cholesterol to prevent an actual outcome, because and honestly, it doesn't matter what your cholesterol levels are. It matters on what's going to happen. Are you going to have a stroke or are you going to have a heart attack? If you take a statin every day for 10 years, you're reducing your risk by 1 to 2%. And that is one of the absolute best things they have from a prevention standpoint. 1 to 2%, and keep in mind, it's more like 1 to 2% of subjects. So imagine there was 100 subjects in the studies, 1 to 2% less people would have a heart attack or stroke after a 10-year period. And plus there's all the side effects of memory issues, muscle pain, affecting your hormones. So then, because they don't tell you any of these stats, they just say it makes a significant change. When people hear the term significant, the general public's like, significant? Oh, that's like 70% or at least over 50%. No, significant when it comes to studies is not a high percentage. It just means that there's a noticeable change. And noticeable in this case means 1 to 2%. Now, if you've already had a heart attack or a stroke and now you're using statins, then your risk reduction after 10 years goes up to a whopping 3 to 3.5%. So at that point, you still have to make that decision. Okay, is that worth it for you? Because I think if a lot of people knew those numbers, they would decide against it, even if they had those things, like a stroke or a heart attack before. So that's an example where when everyone's focusing on quantity and numbers, they forget about the quality aspect of things. Now, other medical things that can play a role in quantity and extending life, for instance, surgeries, open heart surgeries, bypass surgeries. Now, at the same time, I do feel those are amazing, but I think you would agree that that's not exactly a preventative method. It's like no one's going to be going through life and be like, oh, I can't wait till I get my triple bypass surgery, 20 years from now, because that's my strategy that I'm going to be using for having a longer life. No, you want to avoid that surgery and only use it if you need it. So things that can improve your quality of life that have an effect for quantity too are the little things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Diet would be a perfect example. Head-to-head, when they're comparing the effects of diet versus statins versus any other medication that they're using, especially when we're talking about cardiovascular disease, the Mediterranean diet has a much better long-term outcome, and then its effect on the quality of your life is much better. The thing is with the Mediterranean diet, it's kind of vague. Like, what exactly does it entail? You could kind of summarize it like this. You'd pull back on refined foods, you'd eat more fish, more garlic, more olives and olive oil, and then get more vegetables into your diet. So it's kind of like a whole foods diet, but with an extra focus on fish, olives, garlic. If you're doing that, the change that you've already made drastically outweighs any medication that they have for preventing cardiovascular disease. And the way you're going to feel, there's no side effects to a Mediterranean diet besides feeling better. So, and that's the other thing too, is that it's not just focusing on how you feel, it's focusing on how you feel the next day, the next week, the next month. So the next section we're going to talk about now is that not just in terms of medications, but that classic case of self-medicating that people do to make themselves temporarily feel better, that's not giving them the effect for quality that they're going to want. For instance, you're stressed out after work, a couple glasses of wine are going to make you feel better for a short period of time, like a few hours for that evening. But for the next day, you're not going to feel any better because of it, and it's not like you're going to feel better because of it the next week. And unfortunately, all the studies come with alcohol where it used to show, 2 to 3 glasses per wine were good for prevention. Now they've lowered it down to like a half or less. So there's a lot of things that people do to self-medicate themselves that are self-destructive. And if we can change those so that everything you're doing that's going to make you feel better, not just at that moment, but later too, that's the magic. Those are the little habits that you want to change. So what you really want to be doing is, it's called delayed gratification. Rather than just focusing on, I need to feel better this very second, or I need something that's going to give me results right away. Most of the things that act that fast, unfortunately, are short-term gains and long-term... There we go. Let's see if I can enunciate. Short-term gains, long-term losses. That is not what you want. That is not quality. So quality means that you're going to be doing a few changes that make you feel better, preferably for that instant, but also in the long term. So an example, you're stressed out, you're going for a glass of wine, trade in that wine for water or herbal teas or some deep breathing exercises. Those are all things that are not going to only make you feel better in the moment, but they're going to make you feel better the next day and after. And nobody a month later wakes up and is like, oh, I wish I didn't do those deep breathing exercises and drink and better hydrate myself. So another thing that people do when they're looking for those short-term gratification, it's sugar. People are like stressed out and they just head right to the sugar. Fortunately, in today's world, there's so many substitutes for that you can kind of get away with it. So you could still get a sweet flavor just by using other things like stevia or monk fruit, or even eating like natural fruit. And the nice thing is that when you do that, you'll get a little bit of your sugar kick. You're not going to feel crappy the next day. It's not going to have any negative effects, as everybody knows. I'm sure at this point, everybody knows listening to this podcast that too much sugar is bad for you. You know that, and you know that right in your heart. You've already knew that. Too much sugar is bad for you. So don't seek that short-term gratification with something that you know is bad for you, because it's only going to make you feel better literally within, not even for an hour. You're going to feel worse after within an hour. Imagine doing something that you're trying to get results, but you already know in your head within an hour you're going to feel worse. So trade in your sugar for a natural sweetener substitute. When you're stressed out and it's the end of the day and you just want to like veg out and just stare at a screen all night, trade in your show for a walk, or at least do a combination of it. One of the things we do at our house, say for my kids, if we're all tired after a long day at work, my wife and I, the kids want to watch a show, we're like, okay, you can watch a show, pick your favorite show, but guess what? The TV is in front of the treadmill. Hop on and take a walk and watch your show. Like, if you can't separate it, then at least combine it so you're getting 2 for 1. Instead of just at nighttime when you're just lounging around staring at your phone, instead of a lounge, switch it for a light stretch. You can still look at your phone, but by doing those light stretches, the quality of how you're going to feel the next day after light stretching and how much looser you're going to feel after doing that for a period of time. Like, if you did some light stretching every night before bed for a week, I guarantee at the end of the week you are going to feel that much better when you wake up in the morning. So these are all the little changes that you can make to improve the quality of your life. Don't even worry about the quantity, because it's going to happen on its own. And you're going to feel, I'm not sure how many times you've had chances to speak with other senior citizens or anything along those lines, that most of them, a lot of them don't care how much longer they're going to live in a lot of cases, but they do care about how they feel. Like, if they're in pain all day and they're just sitting there, like, in a room staring at a wall, I'm sure if they were to go back and say, oh, I want to add, extra 5 years of my life doing this, or they would say, I wish I was more mobile. I wish I had better energy. I wish I didn't have so many problems with my heart or my teeth or my bones or my joints. And those can be all prevented with literally just everything we've just spoken about right now during this last few minutes. And of course, if you are a female, perimenopause or menopausal, balance your hormones. That, for me, is definitely one of the foundational building blocks of quality of life, which will automatically improve quantity. So I hope this gives a few tidbits in terms of how you can think about these little day-to-day strategies and day-to-day habits that you have, and just make those tiny little tweaks. The tiny little tweaks that you do on a daily basis is so much more important than trying to undertake some massive task. And it's so much more likely that you're going to be able to maintain it. So this is Doc Yates, signing off. Thanks for tuning in to Simply Health. If you want to learn more about health, check out Able Health. If you want to see some of the other projects that I've been working on in health, business, music, and life, please check out the links below.